Hey class, this week we've been talking about the planting of English America, specifically the first 13 colonies. We've already done a map activity with those, so we've mapped those out. Some of you were kind of struggling, but we're going to learn those colonies. We're going to learn their geographical location, and we are going to learn the specifics about their economies, the people there, and the founding of them. So really interesting topics that we're going to be covering. We talked about the Protestant Reformation last week. We talked about how King Henry broke with the Catholic Church, and there were a lot of issues between England and Spain. Remember, Spain is Catholic, and so there was a lot of disagreement going on at that time period, and then just different things happened that we discussed, and Spain tried to plot revenge against England, and that is where their Spanish Armada went to attack the British Navy. That was in 1588. And they actually weren't successful, so England ended up coming out as the champion. They were the winner of that fight. And what's interesting, though, is Britain, their ships were very small compared to the Spanish ships. They were much bigger and stronger. And so on paper, it looked like Spain should have won, should have taken out the English Navy. But the interesting part is that they actually were defeated by really bad weather. It wasn't necessarily the British Navy, it was the terrible weather conditions during that fight. So Spanish Armada is defeated by the British Navy, and this is going to allow England to be able to travel across the Atlantic and come to the New World. They're no longer going to have to worry about the Spanish Armada fighting them, stopping them, any of that. So they are actually going to have open reign for 300 plus years at this time period. Their navy is going to be the best in the world. They're going to control the seas, and it's not going to be until America comes in and has a better navy and, and dominates the naval portion of that. So about 300 years. We also talked about some reasons that people would come to the New World. Why would they leave the Old World? We talked about different conditions, such as how the population was growing and there weren't enough jobs for people. We talked about how usually they were young men, single men. We talked about how the eldest son would actually be the one to get the property, the land, any assets that the family has, they would get those things. And so usually this would be the younger sons who would travel to America. And most of them came over as indentured servants. Remember, indentured servants were people that were contracted to a time of servitude, usually about 7 years, and they would come over. Their voyage would be paid for by someone else, and then they would be expected to work for usually about 7 years. And then once they had finished their work, their servitude, they would be free, and oftentimes they would be promised land. We know that they did not get their land, and that's going to lead to rebellions and uprisings later on in American history that we'll get to. Really interesting time period, where the lower class is showing that they want to have more power and rights. So we'll learn about that as we get to that. And then we're also going to talk about Jamestown and joint stock companies and different charters that happen. And then we're going to talk about specifically the 13 colonies, why they are founded. Why is Georgia founded? Why are the Carolinas founded? What kind of economy do they have? Who founds them? Who goes there? What is the purpose of those? We're going to talk about like I said, Jamestown, we're going to talk about tobacco. Why is tobacco a big product? Why is it such a desired crop in England? Why do they want that? Why are they able to grow that and make so much money? So we're going to talk about all of these things as we move forward in this chapter. So stay tuned.